So those seven other albums that I talked about, those are gonna have to wait. So J. Cole just dropped Might Delete Later, which is, I'm assuming, a precursor mixtape to The Fall Off. I don't know if It's a Boy exists anymore. This may be It's a Boy, judging by how the rollout of this thing is going. But this is definitely a response record to the Metro Boomin diss on Like That with Kendrick Lamar. There's a lot of disses kind of sprinkled throughout here, particularly in the last track. But before we get to that last track, we still got a whole album to talk about here. And we start off with Pricey. It is a good intro. Ari Lennox brings a great hook, and J. Cole is sounding hungry. He's sounding menacing, and he's bringing a great performance to start off this mix. I don't know if it's a mixtape. I don't know if it's an album. I don't know what we're calling this thing. We don't even know if this is going to exist for a couple of days. I downloaded the album just in case it does get deleted. But it is a good start. Crocodile Tears is probably one of my favorite songs. I know it was a snippet that was released on that Might Delete Later video slash rollout. This is probably the most menacing song on the project for me. I really enjoy it. And J. Cole just sounds, again, just really menacing. And he's just going all guns blazing, bringing some great lines, sometimes some not great lines, but for the most part, this song is pretty great. Ready 24 of Cam'ron is another nice track. Cam'ron brings a fun, kind of nice dynamic and a nice performance. It's one of those tracks that just kind of just fills into the background. It's still a pretty good track nonetheless. Hunting Wabbits is kind of a little bit more kind of, I guess, brooding, a little bit moodier. It also has some Meat Canyon samples, which is campy in a way. It kind of sounds a little bit corny the more I listen to it, but it does offer a little bit of novelty and kind of a funny kind of thing to this song. It does it juxtapose with the menacing beat? Not really, but I still think the song is pretty decent nonetheless. But then we get into the spot of the record that I think is the worst. And I totally get that J. Cole has improved a lot on his singing, a lot in his delivery, a lot in his performance. But HYB, I believe it, Hate Your Bitch, I think, is the acronym with Boz and Central C. I get it that you're with Drake, but I don't think J. Cole works on drill. I don't think he works on drill production. And I think the biggest problem I have on this song, and Central C does bring a decent enough performance. Cole does sound okay on it, but I think the biggest problem with me is Boz. And what I have picked up when listening to Boz for the past little while is that his vocal delivery, his singing is so monotone and so just bland. I'm just gonna say it. It's a very bland vocal performance that Boz brings, especially on hooks. And the way that he sings them just makes it sound just kind of just a really big slog to get through just on the chorus. It's very just, it kind of just drags on because there's no kind of vocal dynamics. There's no kind of way of making the chorus interesting with its vocals. And when you have that, it causes whatever momentum the song may have to completely slow down for Boz's chorus. And whether it's kind of like a mood or a vibey thing, because I know Boz has that kind of sound where it's a lot more vibey, it's a lot more kind of moody in its sound. But when you have a drill song that's a little bit more higher tempo like this, to have Boz kind of come in and just kind of cause this cause the track to just screech to a halt for a second, it does make this song kind of drag and also feel all over the place. And then you get to Fever. So the dance hall is now part of J. Cole's repertoire, and it's for probably the wrong reasons. This reminded me of Drake's One Dance and Controlla. I like those songs, but again, I don't think J. Cole is the type of artist to really go over these type of instrumentals. The vocals they're average, and I think J. Cole, as much as I said that his vocal delivery and his singing has gotten a lot better over the years, I think this kind of syrupy, mainstream appealing dancehall track is something that is just way out of J. Cole's wheelhouse, and it's weird to have a record like this to have such this weird spot in the middle where it's trying to appeal to a radio hit to get a radio audience. It's just weird that an album like this is trying to go for that, especially considering when you had the first half of this album where J. Cole is hungry, he's aggressive, and he's really trying to show himself as one of the most like aggressive and most just tenacious rappers out right now, and he's done that a few times across this record. But then after this kind of middling point of the record, you do get some really good spots with Sticks and Stones where you do get a little bit more of that introspective and more kind of topical J. Cole that kind of gravitated me toward him in the first place. It gets topical, it gets interesting, and as much as the bravado and the flexing and kind of showing your lyrical prowess is always a thing that's going to be around in hip hop, and J. Cole does it very well. I feel like the moments of Sticks and Stones, and in particular Pie, is where J. Cole stands out the most. And Pie is probably my second best, if not my favorite track. It's growing to become my favorite with Daylight and Ab-Soul. Daylight and Ab-Soul are just going back and forth. Ab-Soul has been on a tear this year when it comes to features, and this is probably one of my favorite features from him. There's a Malcolm X bar in there that is just amazing. And Daylight is a nice kind of back and forth again with Ab-Soul. It brings a great performance. And J. Cole comes on the back end again with more topics, more introspection, more kind of contemplation. You get some moments of just kind of social commentary in a way. I believe there's a part of the song it's just like talking about angels and talking about how the dead are kind of or stuck in this kind of hellhole kind of thing. I'm really just paraphrasing, and I'm probably paraphrasing pretty poorly. But again, it's just the topics, it's the introspection that you get from J. Cole that you got on the off season, you got on For Your Eyes Only, that shows up here. And with a more reinvigorated Cole and his delivery and his performance, it really works out to be some of the best kind of material that is on this project. But then it falls back down again into stealth mode. The same problem lies with Hit Your Bitch. It is Boz. When it comes to his vocal delivery, it is bland, it is monotone. It really just grinds the track to a halt. And J. Cole does provide a better rapping performance on stealth mode. It's more, again, of that kind of drill sound that I don't think J. Cole really fits in well. But on here, he does provide a better performance. But again, it is all down to the Boz hook, which is just molasses compared to everything else. 3001 and Trey the Truth in Ibiza does bring back the sound of Sticks and Stones and Pie. They're good enough tracks. They provide, again, just more great performances from J. Cole. But again, we're here for 12-minute or 7-minute drill, which, if we're looking at the disses, off first listen, I thought they were very potent. I thought they were pretty good at the time, but the more that I listen to it, the more that I'm starting to realize that these are very surface level disses. And it's really interesting to think that one Kendrick Lamar verse on Like That still trumps this whole album when it comes to disses. And what I've gotten from these disses on 7-minute drill is basically there's this weird portion of the song where it's talking about, I guess, Kendrick's catalog, and it's making it sound like Good Kid, Mad City or To Pimp a Butterfly was boring or made you fall asleep. Or Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is tragic. Damn was his peak or his prime. It sounds really strange coming from J. Cole. And I think I think the heads will prevail to realize that to call Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly, no matter if you're a Kendrick hater or not, those are some classics of the genre. To call those albums boring is pretty funny, and I think the diss falls flat. Another thing too is that another diss is that four albums in 12 years or something like that, basically saying you just take too long to drop. True, I think we all want Kendrick to drop more, but when your disses kind of amount to your albums apparently are boring and you take forever to drop, that's very surface level disses, if I'm really going to be honest. They really don't have much bite to them the more that you think about it. Again, at the moment they sound really biting, but the more you think about it, the more that the disses start to fall apart. But with that, the song is decent. And the second part with Conductor sampling energy, nice touch. Good touch. And the way that J. Cole is coming onto this song and kind of provoking this kind of beef to keep going and to provide a response that we have been waiting for, I applaud J. Cole for doing that. Because I have a feeling that Drake is not going to respond, or he will sneak this the whole way through. So I at least appreciate J. Cole for stepping out of his comfort zone and actually providing some pretty on the nose and point blank disses to Kendrick. Because again, I feel like out of this big three beef that's happening right now, either Drake is going to start dropping disses once the tour is done, or he's not going to do anything at all. I've seen concert videos of him just saying, I'm 10 toes down, no one's going to fuck with me. And he's posting pictures of Sexy Red. He's literally not doing anything. And honestly, probably it's for the best when it comes to Drake's marketing strategy and Drake's long term career. It's probably for the best not to respond to these things. But when you have J. Cole responding like this pretty much with an entire album, you kind of have to respond to this point. You can't really just sit back and just watch it all happen. So that's kind of my synopsis of 7 Minute Drill, and that's kind of my synopsis for the whole album. So overall, there's some pretty great moments on here. There is some pretty low lights here, not to the point where like they're absolutely terrible or disgusting. Maybe besides Fever. Fever is really bad. I will not even gonna lie to you. But overall, I think this mixtape album, whatever this is a cool addition to J. Cole's discography, but I don't think it's gonna have the staying power of his other albums. I feel like this is definitely a response record. It's a record that is of the moment. And I feel like as the years go by, this album is gonna be kind of left behind to the wayside. It's very gonna be of its time. Even like next year, I really question, even like in the next month or honestly, I really question if I'm gonna be returning to this thing all that much. But there's still some good tracks on here. There's some tracks that I took away. But overall, I am feeling at this current moment, again, with the Metro album and probably with this, I am going to do a 1 month later because J. Cole's a big artist. I think it deserves a second listen when you go further down the line. It's going to be very interesting too if there's more responses in that month span. But as of right now, I am going to give it a 6 out of 10. Originally, it was a 7. But again, I feel like the more you listen to this record, the more the cracks begin to show when it comes to the disses and as well as some of the departures that J. Cole goes on here. But what are your thoughts on this record? It is very, very early review here, but I feel like I got a good amount of what I was supposed to get out of this thing. But what are your thoughts on this record? Did you enjoy it? Did you despise it? What are your thoughts on the disses? I will keep you posted, and I still got 7 more albums now to listen to after this, but that is definitely waiting till the morning. So, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed the album, I guess.